It's nap time here, really. So, just having a coffee. And just wait a little while to see if anyone is able to turn up. I don't know if it's a good time right now. It's probably quite late in America, is it? It's probably around 3 o'clock here in Australia. Cement Shoes, hi. How are you? Hi Robert. Have you guys heard about the Nashville shootings? And what do you think? It's endless, isn't it? It's 12:52 a.m. Ohio. So it's the wee hours, but not quite the witching hour, right? I think is the witching hour and at 3 a.m. or something like that. Cement Shoes. Yeah. I think this is the 130th mass shooting in America this year. We can let that sink in, can't we? This year. It's been several years since Vegas, where 50 deaths, I think. It's been a little while since I don't know how to pronounce it, Uvalde, where police officers just waited outside the school. You know, they weren't really men of action. And was it 9 people in total harmed? Not sure of the deaths. But, you know, we all get the picture, don't we? We all get the picture that mass shootings, you know, it's funny. You see in the comments, oh my, how can we ever prepare ourselves? This is always such a shock. No, it isn't, sweetheart. Pull your knickers up, put your big girl pants on, and open your front door, you know, or shut the front door, as we like to say, and so from the time that they were alerted to the time that Hale was shot dead, it was 14 minutes. It took them 4 minutes. So it took them 10 minutes to get there to Covenant School, and it took them 4 minutes to locate and take down this most recent piece of shit and, yeah, remove scum from the face of the earth. Sorry, that's strong, isn't it? And they saved lives. So Officer Max Engelbert and it's Officer Michael Colazzo. Okay, those are the 2 people's. Am I yelling at you guys? Sorry if I am. Let me have another little coffee. Those are the 2 officers' body cams that we can view. Oh, thanks. Oh, good, thanks. I'm never sure if I should speak up. Hello, Jules. Hello, the cool blue wolf. Who here is in the wolf pack? In the car, in that very full car of Jules. Another day in the car. Jules has been doing some amazing reporting. I mean, it's a big commitment to be reporting that part of Letitia Stauch's trial. I mean, the lead up to it, all the jury duty days, where, you know, 100 people are brought in and they go through the selection process, and that's taken a long time, but it is fascinating viewing for people who do have. Hi, Jennifer. Yeah, it's fascinating. I can't see you blushing, Jules. Come on. But it is fascinating viewing for anyone that does have time. I usually sort of catch the little end bit of it, but that can be the interesting bit where the judge, who seems most excellent, just from what I've seen, he seems very level-headed. He seems very sure of himself. He seems confident in what he is doing. So sorry, just a small digression, but yeah, if you're interested in what's happening with Letitia Stout, yes, please go over to another Day in the Car with Jules and to Crime Curious, because them, along with Kit's channel, they've got some really good coverage. Yeah, with Uvalde, I mean, sorry, I'm going to keep pronouncing that really. Uvalde, I'm sorry, I'll probably always get it wrong. Look, you don't want to call someone a coward, right? Why would you go into a profession where you take a vow, you're trained, or you're not really trained, but you take a vow to protect and serve. And this was children, for Christ's sake. And sorry, I very rarely will take the Lord's name in vain. I don't like to say things like that on this channel, or even just say prayers and all of this, because I never want to be a hypocrite. I've started doing that a little bit more recently. I'm not, because but for fuck's sake, then. Children inside are being slaughtered, and we've got these Keystone cops. What were they thinking? What we saw with the officers at Nashville at the Covenant Christian School is really decisive action. So the children have got into safety, I think, in a nearby church, maybe the chapel of the school, I'm not quite sure, I'm sorry, not a lot of detail, but from what I might understand, some teams may have broken in one area, and in another, where we see Officer Rex enter, he is let in with a key. The doors had been locked so that the shooter was locked in. So I think one team must have broken in, one team was let in, and they are decisive. They are communicating with each other. The siren is going off, but there's, amongst all this gunfire, because they are shooting into areas that they need to clear, they are supporting each other. I'm with you, keep pushing. Shots fired, move. They are working together, they're communicating, they are building up this situation where they are acting like one unit. They didn't fuck around, and they saved lives. I'm pretty sure they've saved lives. When Hale was found, looked like she was in a teacher's lounge or something. There's this big arched window. She'd been shooting, I think, from downstairs at the officers, and then she'd gotten upstairs. She was located by the teams. She had a handgun in her hand, and at one point then she's on her ground, her legs are crumpled under her, and she's laying back, and her hand's there, right hand, and it's moving, and they're going, don't move, and they shoot the bitch. And yeah, sorry, I'm being very, very bold and maybe cruel. I'm going to have people that are saying I have no compassion for someone that obviously suffered in life. A lot of people suffer in life. A lot of people are bullied. A lot of people suffer with gender dysphoria, real gender dysphoria. They don't go and murder people. They don't decide that people that are nothing to do with their own personal identification issues or their own depression are worth killing. It's unbelievable the decisions that these people make, and it is narcissism. It's narcissism. They want their name to be ringing around the world. That's what they want. That's what they want. So I wind it back a little bit just because if people do watch this that don't have some of the basics, I just want to run through it quickly, if that's all right. So Audrey Hale, she's 28 years old, sometimes known to call herself Aiden, but I don't know what she would have done to move toward any sort of actual transition. Not that you can, because there's XX and XY and that's it. And the rest of it, you can live your life how you want, present how you want, but don't gaslight the population into things. I mean, it's a privilege to have people pander to your pronouns, if you ask me. So personal friends and things, well, yeah, you're going to do it, aren't you? But when it's shoved down your throat, anyway. She was a student of this school, so it could have been, it could have been 10, 20 years ago, because she is 28. She started writing messages to a person that she went to middle school with, this person by the name of Patton, who appears to be a rather beautiful young woman. They played basketball together. And from what I can understand, it seems Hale was infatuated or in love with Patton. Patton was the most beautiful creature Hale had ever seen. And, it does make me wonder about that particular era. To me, there seem to be a lot of people that are autistic. They're in their early to mid-20s, and they're coming out as transgender because it was just too difficult to be homosexual. They weren't accepted for that. Maybe it's more accepted. Well, I'm not lesbian, I'm not gay. It's actually because I'm actually straight, because I'm this other gender. And people with certain differences, neurodivergencies, they are really vulnerable to a lot of the predators online, or just a lot of peer groups. And when they live a lot of their life online and live nearly sometimes more inside their online world with avatars and things like that, they're just extremely vulnerable, and this is something that I know statistically can be proven. And I just wonder about that. I wonder when, Audrey's issues started like that, because, of course, Christianity, depending on how, it could be quite traditional, could be quite cloistered, sheltered, whatever, where she has grown up, and they're not necessarily going to know how to support a young gay person, or even a young gay or a young person that has gender dysphoria, or might indeed be struggling with other similar things. And I think things just go off the rails really quickly. And I wonder if the parents, even though they seem to be reasonably attentive, I mean, this 28-year-old woman was living with them in their home, in their basement, playing video games. I'm not just saying that as a trope, because this is what we're learning. They've too easily believed, she had one gun, but she's given it away because this time she's listening to us. She's never listened to us before. We know she is emotionally struggling. She's indeed under some sort of emotional danger care. But that's okay. We'll believe her when she says she's had a gun, but now she's going to sell it. This woman had 7 guns. Some of them are rifles in that home. She left home that morning, the 27th of March, with guns in a big red bag. The mother said, "What's that, dear?" And said she got dismissed. Okay, now stop turning a blind eye. Stop turning a blind eye. Ring someone. I would ring the police on my own child if that were the case. Hopefully it would never be coming to this, but you know your child is disturbed, angry, isolated, and they're leaving home with this bag. What are they doing? You know they're not running away. You know they're not going to do their laundry. You know they're not going to do sport. What are they doing? Call the police. BOLO. Be on the lookout, for God's sake. In the emails or the messages on Facebook maybe that she was writing to her school friend, Patton, she's saying, you know, so basically, the post that I made on here about you, where I think she was saying, you're beautiful, I've always loved you, was basically a suicide note. I'm planning to do today. This is not a joke. This is my last goodbye. I love you. See you again in another life. Poor Patton writes back, Audrey, you have so much more life to live. I pray God keeps and covers you. I think that's what it said. You know, me. Not I'm feeling homicidal. Yeah, I'm not, you know, I can understand festering anger, okay? Actually, trust me, I really do understand festering anger that, you know, it shouldn't be there. Years of therapy would probably get rid of that. And that's, you know, something that Audrey Hale, Aidan Hale, let's say, seems to have had. It's just this festering grudge, which she has anchored at this Christian school, where maybe she was bullied for being homosexual. I don't know what that has got to do with 9-year-old Evelyn Dickhouse, 9-year-old William Kenny, 9-year-old Hayley Scrugg, 61-year-old substitute teacher Cynthia Peake, 61-year-old custodian Mike Hill, head of the school Catherine Coons. Fucking nothing. But there you go. There you go. Audrey felt righteous. She felt that, you know, she had the right to do that. How do we redirect people's hurt? What do we do? I mean, parents are obviously not coping. There's a huge groundswell of disconnected, disenfranchised, narcissistic, failing people. I'm sorry, I know that sounds rough, but you know, because there's so much fucking navel gazing going on. Oh, I'm very unsympathetic sounding, aren't I? But you know, it used to be okay to be gay, and now it seems that somehow if that's not going to be acceptable, then you're trans, and I wouldn't like to see this to turn into a trans movement issue. This is an issue for all of society to face up to. What do you guys feel about gun reformation in America? That's going to be very hard. The Second Amendment, you know, the Constitution says, you know, you've got the right to bear arms. It's to protect yourselves in your homes, kind of thing, you know. Oh, you know, well, it's to keep us safe. Well, let me ask you this. How many of you good, law-abiding, gun-carrying citizens ever actually draw your gun and fire when these hundreds of mass shootings are going on in states all around America? So hi, Sleuth Intuition. Sorry, I can't really see much of the chat, but anyway, I'm on a bit of a rant anyway. All around America, if so many people are packing heat for their own protection, why aren't they using it? There is one recent example that I can think of, and actually, maybe Randy Gravitt's channel has information on this. He lives nearby. I believe that it was in a shopping mall. The name starts with G. There were a couple of incidents recently, and in the most recent one, a good law-abiding citizen who does have a gun for protection clearly drew the weapon and shot the bastard before they could kill any more people. I think they were shooting in the, I want to say Greenmount, but don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on anything. You're not. So I don't know. I just don't understand it. Some states have harsher, have tighter laws. There's a little thing in California where you wait 10 days. It's kind of like a cooling off period, I guess, where you can't sort of think in the morning, geez, kill that ex-husband of mine, get a gun and kill him that afternoon. Maybe that gives you 10 more days to plan better. I don't know. Seven weapons, does that sound excessive for people? If you're just going to be licensed to have a gun just for self-protection to either carry, I think in Tennessee it's actually quite a loose legislative system where you can conceal. You don't even need to have it in the open. I've forgotten all the terms. But, this person, this murderer, had legally obtained 7 guns. But I say legally, and I'm not sure about that because I think she lied to get some of them. I mean, it basically seems like in Tennessee you could meet someone in a car park and buy a gun. So that's Audrey Hales, 28 years old, living with her parents, deeply troubled. She is under the care of some sort of medical agency. I don't know what the term is, but it's for some emotional distress type thing. We can't blame Patton. She wouldn't have known. How we wish, just call the police. Those were some very strange messages. But I guess you can't blame this poor girl because she thought that her old school friend, who she hadn't seen, they weren't really in contact. I have a feeling they didn't see each other for years. She probably thought she was just going to harm only herself. But I think in this day and age, we have to assume that people are going to harm others as well, take them out. Guns account for a whopping 87% of murders, I think, in America. Only 4% of murders in the UK involve guns. I think it's something like 14% of murders in Australia involve guns. Do you hear of a nearly impossible to count amount of mass shootings in Australia? Even if you made it proportional to our population. No. Why? Why? Because decades ago, after the Port Arthur massacre, which, of course, there's conspiracy theories about it, that this one doofus of a chap, he was actually a very good marksman though, but this outsider, people say that he couldn't have possibly have done it himself and that it was a ruse to get the Australian people to give up their rights to carry arms, and now we are super vulnerable to a ever increasingly fascist government. I mean, this is kind of true, but where's that line? Why does it seem that you value guns over human life, guns over innocent children? So you don't have these mass shootings here. It's just not possible. We have shootings, we have gangland wars. Of course, there's all sorts of terrible things. We do have family annihilators. We have serial killers and the like. Betsy B earlier in Truth, Efficiency, Self-Understanding. Hi, kia ora, from my homeland. Hi, Fran. I'm just doing a little rant. It's not a very good one because I never do structured videos anymore, do I? I really think anyone who's still supporting my channel is really getting this short shrift from me. I used to come up with my idea about something that I would just give a response to and give a nice, concise 20-minute video. And now I do this. But really because, it gets very difficult it was getting very difficult to record it and then to upload. And it would take maybe hours to upload, and if I had trouble with my connection and things. So this is just a lot more immediate, and it's a one step. So in Tennessee, so of course Nashville's in Tennessee, people 21 and over can openly carry handguns or concealed weapons without a permit. 51% of adults have guns in the home, and there is legislation in the works. I mean, it's already sort of been going through the first motions, from what I understand, so that all types of guns are going to be included in that. So I'm not sure if there is such a thing as an assault rifle, or if that's kind of a slang term, but so this means rifles. Does it mean automatic weapons? I just think that's absolutely bonkers. Now, even with Kenya having some sort of attempt at stop gaps where they've got that 10-day waiting period and a thorough background check, and really couldn't that depend on the person running the background check, what software or what programs they're using, how they're accessing information, whether the person obtaining the weapon is, not committing some sort of identity fraud or whatever, but they still do have mass shootings there. So it's not, it's not stopping it happening altogether. But, I am now, just excuse me while I do this because it's a sleepy afternoon. Today is my Saturday. Yeoman will see this and go, why are you drinking, Humanimal? So recently, now I didn't cover these and I haven't looked into them very deeply at all, but I know Another Day in the Car with Jules, so ADOTC, Jules, JULEZ, I think covered Colorado Springs and perhaps even went there. So there was Colorado Springs, Aberdeen, Denver, and now Nashville, where the shooters are trans people. And I'm wondering, is something going to be made of that? Yes, that's Jules there. So I don't know if we can... Sometime I'll try and put some link. Oh, there's plenty of links actually. If anyone goes to my comments section, my community page, I'm always sort of sharing things from people anyway. So if anyone isn't on those channels already, just find them in my community page. Yeah, I wonder if something's going to be made of that. I don't know. As if, they're just feeling so, pushed out from society. Are they the new incel or something? I don't know. I don't want to be as offensive as I'm probably sounding. The friend Pat, and she She called the suicide hotline, and I'm just wondering, uh, you see this all the time. What we don't have, we see this with, say, in Laurie Cox's case, right? You may be familiar with the drive to get a law up called Tyler's Law, because people can do all sorts of things, get away with things when they keep crossing state lines. So suddenly, law enforcement officers and things, they don't have access to every shonky, cruel, manipulative thing people might be doing, right? And I was wondering this about Patton. She was concerned for this person. She's called a suicide hotline. I don't know what she would have been able to tell them, but, you have to wonder, I mean, this obviously takes a huge network, a lot of power, a lot of money, and I mean like a lot of grid power, a lot of server power, right? But even the FBI, you have law enforcement agencies are forced to go state by state, and they need to ring up fellow sheriffs in other states or ring up other state police to try and run checks, and they have to have good reason for it. There's no federal database, and it's a tricky one because you need to protect privacy. So you could argue that Audrey Hale has a right to privacy about her medical status, but if a suicide hotline got tipped in to someone and they could look up that person using their date of birth and their name and see, well, this person is actually receiving some, this person is actually like a red flag, and then wouldn't it be prudent? Do you think it would be legal, lawful? Would it be acceptable or whatever for then, some sort of call to be put out, even as a welfare check to police? I don't know. So these messages were going through from Audrey at 9:57 a.m. By 10:13, at 10:13, she was already at the school when she was sending those messages. At 10:13, she entered the school, and she was shot by the police at 10:27. That's how quickly it worked. Once it happened, I don't know. Would they have had a lot of time? I don't know. I just do thank the universe that the law enforcement officers who attended, I mean, they got their shit together. They took affirmative action and they closed the situation down, and they're absolutely to be commended. Now that can't feel very good. They were standing over this woman's body. They had shot her, and this has got to affect them, yeah. Anyway, I guess, I think the only take that I had on this at the moment, because I've got nothing to offer about it, but it's just making my head swim. I've been extremely moved by it. But all I can think of, with her going back to that school, I feel like she just wasn't accepted for her sexuality, or she felt like she wasn't. And it may be true that so what does it now? Cement says they weren't in the hallway using Purell. What's Purell, Cement? While kids died, like in Uvalde. What does that mean? Anyway, I don't want to go off on too many tangents about how I feel about the woke left infiltrating schools, but hopefully it can't be hard in schools, and especially maybe in a Christian school, to be gay, but I think it can all depend on how you are brought up, with self-esteem in the home, with the ability to talk to your parents, with the ability to not feel like you're living some sort of secret life at school where you're sulky and struggling at home and fighting with your parents, and then you're going to school and you're trying to live out some sort of, make your identity such a big part of your school life, where it shouldn't be at all. She shouldn't have felt the need to have to be accepted for being homosexual, if that kind of makes sense. It's hard to explain. We're going to school for educations, and we need support, moral, ethical support, spiritual leadership in our homes from our parents. Now, not everyone gets that, but I feel this is a failure of the nuclear family, or of the families. I really do. And that's not laying blame on parents as such. It's an across the board problem where people are just either they can't deal with things, they don't deal with things, they don't feel they've got the skills, they're not applying themselves, they get too exhausted, they're happy just to shove the raising of children off onto video games, onto the little computer in the pocket, the phone that I'm using here now to talk to you. And it's all in the too hard basket, rather than, applied parenting from birth, so that when your child is growing, experiencing puberty, that they're supported. I don't know, a lot of us have felt very lonely, isolated, misunderstood. What turns someone into a killer? Sorry, guys, this isn't very good. I wish I could get StreamYard somehow on here and then have... So they took a picture of the Uvalde cops standing outside the classroom in the hallway using hand sanitizer kiosks on the fucking wall. Are you fucking kidding me? Cement shoes? It's hard. It's hard not to feel like everything is sort of lost at times. That that we've passed a tipping point, right, where Satan, if you will, actually has the leading hand. It's very important to keep hope, keep faith. But when you're seeing less and less examples of righteousness, righteous action, of affirmative parenting, of affirmative friendship and affirmative community groups and things like that, it's very easy just to lose all hope and to think, fuck it, Look, I'll tell you something, and I've spoken about these things sometimes, right? I have lived with schizophrenia and psychosis, right? But I actually, depending on what the root of things are, you can heal from things, and it takes time. And, I think I was always going to be vulnerable from an early age. And, with a lot of just having social difficulty from birth and then indoctrination into Catholicism, that really, and then beginning, a lot of panic attacks and things as an early teen, and things really getting inside my head because of the supernatural aspect of Catholicism, and, which later on, through a lot of stress, low self-esteem, drug abuse, drug addiction, blah, 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 and developing some really, really severe mental illness, and some very terrible feelings of persecution, paranoia, and just living through things for years and years, just, masking things for so long. Okay, so and living in fear and all sorts of things, right? And having some very whacked out ideas, okay, about my origin, who I was, what I was, things like, oh, because I am a male and everything's been tricked and all the jokes on me, or, that my cat is a robot, is spying on me, operate, all these things, right? Now, I think there's two kinds of people in the world. The people that live with severe distress in their life and do not go and harm people. They don't go and kill people. And the ones that do, does that kind of... Yeah, there's something else that creates that rage and that... so I guess, is it because of some sociopathy? I think narcissism has a heck of a lot to do with it. I mentioned in a community post, I was saying, because it was Betsy B, I'm not sure, that said, hey, we don't hear of a lot of female shooters. Is this the only one? And I said, well, I can think of another one, the 14-year-old girl who... decades ago now, in 1979 or in 1980, she fired 30 shots at a school across the street from this hovel of an apartment she shared with her father. The father had given her the gun for a Christmas present when she was 14, and just a month or so earlier, and yeah, she just opened fire on a school. And in this weird coincidence, just like here at Covenant, she shot and killed the head of school and the, what's that word? That word we don't use in Australia, but it's, the not the janitor, that starts with C. Yeah, but she was asked, why did you do it? She said, I don't like Mondays. And, there was something to do. Yeah, so Boomtown Rats wrote the song, Tell Me Why I Don't Like Mondays. Do you know it? The silicon chip inside, I had to spin. Yeah, tell me why I don't like Mondays. And she wrote to Bob Geldof, who is a Sir Bob Geldof now, and thanked him for making her famous. And she tried to say that she'd been drinking whiskey for days, perhaps drinking with her father, the father that reportedly she shared just this mattress on the ground in this very small apartment. And then she said she had PCP that morning. Now, I don't know if she was denied proper testing for some political reason because they didn't want to give her an opportunity to get off. I don't know. But the tests came back negative for both alcohol and PCP, or angel dust, I guess you want to say, right? So she was saying she was high as a kite, and coming off a bender, and she said, because if I did that sober, what would that make me? A cold hard killer or something like that. She wasn't hitting a lot of people. See, this is the strange thing, right? Okay, she could have hit a lot of people. She was a good marksman. She went shooting, hunting with her father. And so I'd thought maybe she really was high or impaired somehow because she wasn't really hitting a lot of people. She fired 30 shots. She killed the 2 people. I think maybe 8 others were injured, 7 students and a teacher. So, that's a bit weird. But she's never, she's never gotten out on parole. She's been locked up for 40 years. I don't think she could live outside of jail. And I think maybe that's why she doesn't take responsibility because, sorry, it's hot. Can you see me perspiring? Isn't that? It's giving me a glow. Maybe that's why she's, not getting out on parole because she's not saying she has remorse, and maybe that's tactical because she really wouldn't know what it would be like to live out in the wild. She was 14 when she went into prison. She went into prison in 1980. Yeah. So they are rare, though. They're rare. Does anyone know of any other female mass shooters? Sir Geldof, that says everything. Well, look, he was granted Brenda and thanks Cement Shoes. I couldn't remember her surname just for a minute. Brenda and Spencer. Yeah. So, yeah, Sir Geldof, because of all the Live Aid and everything, heal the world, better place. I don't know, what was his song that he had? I can't remember. Do they know it's Christmas? Was that his one? To raise money for all those babies in Africa. Yeah. So, yeah, he's a divisive character. Band-Aid, yeah. Is Live Aid something as well? Maybe that's something separate. I'm sure there's been a few things. I used to love watching the concerts. And, wasn't one of those concerts where Queen, and in particular Freddie Mercury, gave the most electrifying performance that anyone has ever given. Yeah, just amazing. Incredible. If anyone's ever looking for something to watch for really great entertainment, just look up that. Just incredible. And I think it was shown so well by, is it Rami Malek? I can't remember his proper name. The actor. Anyway, yeah, in the movie made about Freddie Mercury. And if you didn't see Elvis on the big screen with Austin, you're missing out. You missed out. That was incredible. So, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like we can't fix things from the middle, right? So everything has to be done from the ground up correctly. And that means stable homes. Now, okay, look, the nuclear family has changed, right? But, come on, people. We need to be able to say it how it is. There's such a backlash against trad wives. Why? These are simply women who want to marry traditional men. They want to have a nuclear family and raise children. But what have we got? We've got people that will have, this sounds judgy, but how can you give security to children and give them a sense of who they are and give them this consistent spiritual guidance and emotional guidance when, maybe, mothers or fathers have got 5 children from 5 different partners? And these lives for the children are very chaotic, or or they're being raised by parents who just don't want to actually raise them. And so what's happening is they are finding, people will find them, we've got a lot of predators online. Look at that Jeffrey fellow who, hi kids, come onto my Patreon, we can really talk. This guy is a predator, and he's looking for vulnerable people that he can groom. And, this person, Audrey Hale, in this day and age, 18 years down the track or so, would have been vulnerable to that type of person. As it is, maybe she's been vulnerable to an ideology that just accentuates mental illness. Now, we must not stigmatize mental illness and blame mental illness as what's pulling these triggers here, right? But how can children go from just, the very regular, natural, fear about, and curiosity about, with what's happening at puberty and everything. How do they go from just in the past being able to organically and at their own pace experience their changes, find out what they like, who they like, live their lives, and this is sort of part and parcel of it's more private, it's shared with friends. We are molded by your experiences, and things get very set at certain ages. Sorry, I'm always not talking very clearly. But what's happening is people at the very slightest query about something, rather than just being allowed to sit with it, carry on with their education, carry on with their spiritual, emotional, human development in the family home and just in their community. Everyone is fucking navel gazing to this most, such a high level, and they are getting people with ideologies and agendas and getting their hooks into them. So these people don't have time, they're stunted. They don't have time to just organically grow. And, this is a huge problem. This is a huge problem. Let me just have a look at something here. Yeah. It's a huge problem. And, that's what I can't help thinking, something to do with that. It's probably quite complicated, but it seems that Audrey has maybe not been able to hide or not wanted to hide. Yeah, see, religion doesn't accept people. Everyone's interpreting, as we know, if we're looking at Cox Daybell closely, we know exactly how people are interpreting Bible, basically writing their own scriptures. But, it's love. Okay, we can love you, but as long as you live in the way that we believe in, and quite often too late, some people come round to the idea that maybe they should have been more accepting of their child because their child starts living a life where they never see their parents. Parents then don't get to see grandchildren, perhaps, or, parents aren't accepting, they can't work through things, and a child takes their own life, and it's a lesson learned way too late. And it is really hard to accept that religious people can't just live and let live. If it wasn't such a big deal, if it wasn't so scary, if they weren't afraid of rejection, there's plenty of people that they want to, keep living a life devoted to Christ, having Christ as a personal savior, and have a personal relationship with Christ. I think they might describe it as. People that I know that do live that way, that's how they describe it. But they won't come out, can't come out, because they're going to be rejected. They're not going to be welcome at their church, you know. Good people can be very, very cruel. And, you know, we all know you don't have to be religious to be good. You don't have to be spiritual to be good, but probably spirituality is the biggest guide in ethics and morality. I don't know. I'm the last person that can talk about those things, frankly. How do I get my messages up if they, yeah. Yeah, this whole, acquiescing to authority. I mean, we can see clearly in the last few years what that has done. We have allowed people in authority who actually aren't qualified to tell us things, who should have no dominion over our life and our choices. They have made huge choices for us, have ruined economies whilst lining their own pockets, and destroyed families, destroyed minds, you know. And people might feel like, oh, we're normalizing now, but everything's a test. Every single thing is a test. And they know what you're going to do, don't they? I mean, how did having all your guns, America, okay, now this is broad, okay, how did having all your guns protect you from just standing up for yourselves during this recent pandemic? Yeah, it didn't. No one was willing to go and use them. I mean, you've got riots where people are looting. Antifa are leaving bricks on corners so that they can be biffed, you know. Everyone is using everyone else, and it's just actually a big joke. Yeah. 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 So yeah, I wonder what we will learn about Audrey, if anything that's really of relevance, really, because my opinion is that nothing really matters other than, yes, she was brought to swift justice. There won't be expensive court cases where, you know, there's sure there's going to be conspiracy theories, but this at least doesn't allow people to feed off, you know, what would come after this, you know, taking her to court, she's in jail, waiting for trial, pre-trial, you know. I guess you know, her life was lost too, and she's a soul that suffered and now she's dead, but you know, I think it stops the circus, the fact that she was killed before she could kill anyone else. I'm 100% positive that Audrey would have killed more people. I think that would be something pretty hard to dispute. Even though the school did a brilliant job getting the children out to another area, Audrey was armed to the hilt, and yeah, she was firing willy-nilly. So, you know, there could have been officers that were shot. Yeah, who knows? Someone said, oh, she was saying that she was suicidal and she was going in, it was going to be death by police, except, oh, she was wearing a bulletproof vest. I did wonder about that too. It kind of looks like... yeah, I mean, where is people standing up for the fact that they want to jibby-jabby babies? That they told you that you can't have your jobs. Everyone just suffered. They went home and you know, propagated a mental illness or unhappiness. Some people may have become more happy. Some people were able to adapt. Some people took the opportunity to live a different way, maybe in a way that they wanted to. But what about people that trained to be nurses and things, and teachers that have been, there's been a lot of bullying and gaslighting, and we know we've been lied to. We were lied to. A lot of us were trying to say this, but, I had a video taken down, and then after that I thought, well, I'm not really political channel anyway. What do I do? I thought I'd just stick to true crime. But you can't talk about it. So what's the point? Okay, so you've got the right to bear arms, but, that mask, that metaphorical, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. You have no right to speak. You've got no right to speak. When you're going along and you see someone in a car, in a motor vehicle on their own, and they're wearing a mask, you just have to cry out for the idiocy. I'm sorry. Okay, at first we don't know what was happening. Doesn't mean that we just become guinea pigs. It just proves that we're just taking up the arse from authority. And without any demand, why should a religious leader or a politician be talking to you about virusology or whatever it is? Is it called virology? Where are the qualified people talking? It's all just talking heads. Why are you listening to a newscaster, right? Someone that's just telling you what they're told to tell you. And these newscasters that are admonishing you and telling you off, like, how dare you make this harder for everyone because you won't wear a mask. We know masks are proven not to help. By all means, if you're unwell, you should wear the mask. Why make healthy people wear a mask? It's making them unhealthy. And there's masks that are made of small cancer-causing fibers that come off. Did you all get irritation, right? Do you think that might be in your lungs? It could be anywhere in your body. What do you think it was doing to you? Anyway, it was a very trying time. It was a mind fuck. It's mind games. Am I boring you guys yet? Perhaps we need baby barbecues on the street. What's a baby barbecue? Where you can just throw your baby on a barbecue. Baby barbecues. Yeah. Being given fines where people, they're just sort of out trying to get some sunshine. So you're told to do things that keep you unhealthy. So no sunshine, no vitamin D synthesis, right? No earthing, no fresh air, and Robert, hashtag pure blood. So people, particularly in Victoria, a state much more southern than where I am, people getting fines, $3,000 for just sitting outside in the sunshine, trying to, we all know that exercise, sunshine, it's great for your health, for your immunity, for your mental health, and yet we were told to do exactly the opposite. The opposite, right? Does that sound right to you? $30 million of fines were reversed by in a court case for those sort of fines. People just refusing to pay them. Yeah. I think there was something like 30,000 of them, equaling $30 million. I mean, it's just a revenue gathering action. But so much money, the economies of Australia and New Zealand, they couldn't handle what's happened. We will never recover. People will never recover. People killed themselves because of the pressure and the stress, and it was, yeah. Oh, yeah. I just think we're just living in a crazy world. It just doesn't, there's no level. Yeah, I mean, yeah. We're all slaves. We work for livings, most of us. We don't live for a living, okay? And you basically, it's made so that you can't live for a living. That's not normal. We're human beings. We're wild animals. Humanimal, right? Human animal. Homo sapiens come from a long line of survivors. And we are regressing, right? You know, we come from different hominids. We still have different hominid DNA. We're not pure Homo sapien. And depending on where you are in the world, Middle East, Malaysia, etc., you will have different degrees of DNA, genetic material from other human animals. And we lived through ice ages. We've lived through so many hardships, spreading out into wilder and wilder areas, learning to inhabit them or making them habitable, living in harmony with the land mostly, or working with it. If you think about the mines and the irrigation systems that they would develop, or if you think about how just to cover large areas to find the food that, you know, you've got nomadic tribes like Aboriginal Australians who, you know, didn't create their own villages and things and just lived off the land and moved around and have tribes, and they're either sea, coastal, you know, or inland, river system, etc. And they work in harmony with what's around them. And you've got cultures that might have been much more easily integratable into, say, this Western culture because they live in a smaller place, say like New Zealand, a series of islands where you build up your civilizations. So pars with kings, queens, towns, if you will, that actually have to negotiate a lot more, barter, go to war with other tribes who might be more easily integratable with culture. And now somehow we just seem to be just helpless, hopeless. You know, how many people could find their own food, who could sustain their own life, okay? Find water, make shelter. I mean, basically that's, you know, that's what we are at base. Our development, the industrial revolutions and everything, right? And our population explosion from 1 billion to 9 billion. This has happened in 70 years. A lot of these huge advances, right? But we are still Homo sapien, maybe with some Neanderthal or Denisovian. We are still animals racing to try and catch up with all the demands. We can't process anything. We don't live in this, you know what I'm saying. The happiest tribes is tribes that still do live, they live in their villages, they support each other, they've got, the things that they do where they go out and they look for food every day, and they help each other build their homes, and they learn skills and are happy. And they don't need. We are trying to deal, even when I first started work, you didn't have to respond straight away to everything, right? You weren't available. You got back to people. You were allowed to think about things, to give things consideration, and then get back. And now people know that you're available on your iPad, on your laptop, on your phone, in your car, wherever you are, and they want instant response. And you don't get 10 messages, you get 1,000. And we can't compute, and we look more and more to having other experiences to counterbalance that maybe have to be really fucking intense. No wonder people are having sex addiction or, whatever it is, right? Because we're desperate. We are being driven out of our minds. We can't feel what it's like to really truly be in our own bodies and to have our own thoughts. And it's very easy in our weakened, pressurized state for people to implant their thoughts into this brain, and you might not even realize that they're not your own thoughts. Sorry, this is just like the ramblings of a crazy person. Yeah, food, water, shelter, and I would say, I would say connection. I would say, mating, to have union, to have offspring, to, cycles. Thank you, Robert. Cycles are very important, and people just have that. It's so funny, right? People are always in awe, or they should be in awe, of, wow, how did the Mayans work out their calendar, and how when they build these structures did they know, how did people know about Halley's Comet, or how do they know about the stars and all this alignment, and how to make Stonehenge so a light comes through on a special time. Well, they weren't all just sitting around looking at their phones and just coming up with ghost self. They were observing, meditating, studying, self-educating, teaching others, communicating. And that's how. So, yeah, it concerns me greatly that, I've got nieces and nephews that are sort of teens and early 20s and then under 10. So, these amazing people who are incredibly the bright, the gifted, the switched on, they've been lucky to have been brought up in, for the most part, these nuclear households by people who have values about their family, who are ambitious in themselves, who have strived to give a good upbringing to the children, right? But I wonder, well, what are they going to, what world are they going to be moving into? I worry about them when they leave school. It's just, sorry. Let me try and get back on track. You know what I'm saying though, right? About human beings. We are these, it's, we're animals who are not expressing our nature. We're not living up to our abilities. We're not acting out our true abilities. We aren't doing things that bring satisfaction, not just feeling exhausted from a day in the office, but there's that different type of tiredness that one gets when you've been out with soil in your hands and you've planted food and you've tended, you've repaired, you've explored, even rested out in the outdoors, and you just don't get that calm satisfaction, that fulfillment. So that it has to be, it's midnight there, is it, Jules? So, because you're on the other side to cement shoes in Ohio, it must be 2 o'clock or something, and where cement shoes is. Yeah. Don't worry, I'm just babbling now, as I always do, so feel free to check out. I made you a mod, I hope you don't mind. I just saw someone pop in that was probably going to, anyway, won't say anything. I needed a mod, but I'd love you to be a mod if you want to be. Yes, so it is, and I think a lot of people don't understand where these feelings are coming from, and they need to be introduced to these concepts again, Nellie, right? A lot of children aren't getting the opportunity. My sister, when she was younger, I just thought it was just the best thing. I don't even know how it came across her field of vision to apply, but I can't remember, was it called the Spirit of New Zealand or the Spirit of Adventure or something? And she attained this place to go and crew on this big ship, like with a lot of teenagers, and just to have these things and just to see the world for what it really is, a heaving, breathing organism, this sentient spaceship, if you will, that we're on. I really think yeah, and it's sad that a lot of people. Good night, Jules, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you. I'll see you on your next live probably. Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is, the mass shooters, if things went differently for them from the foundation in their life, and if certain things, look, I often say the wolf which wins is the wolf you feed, and there's no checks for what people are putting their energy into and their thoughts into. They need diversion. You can shake someone out of something so simply. We all know, I think we're probably all mature enough and adult enough to understand that if you are feeling really bad and poor about yourself, the best way to help yourself is often just to go out and help others. Take that focus off yourself, that self-centeredness. I mean, it doesn't mean don't have self-care, don't worry about your condition, your future, but sometimes that's all we are doing, is being so self-obsessed that if we start putting energy into outward things, helping others, whether it's something spontaneous or something we plan, you get a lot of relief. You can get a lot of relief, and it puts a lot of things into perspective, I think. Anyway, Yeah, so just to sum up, to repeat it again, I think, Audrey was probably either outed as gay or came out as gay, not trans, in school. Um, struggled because she felt different, she didn't feel accepted, and rather than recognizing that sexuality is just a part of your identity and not your whole identity, because let's face it, we know that these days it seems to have to be the entirety of one's identity, and this is just bollocks, and this is where the rest of society is gaslit into having to play pronoun games and shite like that. And sadly, if you're not getting support, if you don't get the right sort of people to talk to, or if you just can't see that, look, life's going to be different. One day I'll be older, I'll be out of here, I'll be an adult, I can live out things. I think she's felt a lot of shame and maybe been on the outer for homosexuality, and somehow that's just, so many things have tied in with that, and she's never pulled out of it. She's 28 and she's never set herself free, so a lot of things are happening, clearly, but I don't know how much sympathy I have, because she didn't just go and jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. She's shot 3 innocent 9-year-olds and 3 innocent adults. The first person I think to get shot is the head of the school, and I think, that shows a lot of character. I think it wasn't a coincidence. I don't know. We'll find out what happened, but perhaps, she has stepped up to go, well, this is my responsibility. Something very odd is happening in the school. Maybe there were shots fired before anything happened. I don't know. Sorry. Yeah. I'll see you all later. Thanks for listening. It's been a minute 22 and 22. I didn't really say anything. I just wanted to discuss that situation and just lay it down so that we can talk about it later. Bright P at New Zealand, objective morality is what you are describing. Do no harm. Once that is common sense, we can be free. Yeah, it's funny, the do no harm, or, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, because not, Matthew 7:12, because not everybody wants to be treated with care and respect, okay? So, but yeah, common sense. Hi, pigs fly. Oh, thanks for that, and thanks everybody. I enjoyed all your comments. I've probably missed a few, or if I didn't read it out or anything, it's just because using my phone and I just sort of have to try and grab them. But I appreciate you all, and yeah, I'm not on here very often now. It's not that I'm not involved with things and have things to say. I've got a lot to say about a lot of the cases that we've covered in the past, but it's exhausting. It gets me into trouble. I probably will be making Cox Daybell videos when the trial's underway, and I will be making videos about Letitia Stout's case probably. I'm hoping to just be able to put together something that I've written, like just a 5-minute, if something catches my attention, just to comment on that, so it doesn't have to be a big thing. That's more like what I used to do. That's at the start of my channel. I would just take snippets of situations, subjects, or an angle, or just give my point of view on what someone said or what someone did, and I really enjoyed that. So I'll try to get back to that, and yeah, because I do want my channel to keep going. I do want to keep going with my channel, but I really struggle with the identity of this channel. someone said to me in another chat, and, so when did you become so combative? I mean, I've always had combative thoughts, if you will, but I guess I just became more and more outspoken because I just got more and more angry with the bullshit. But then when you do that, so you're not allowed to have an opinion, or if you're just supposed to let people run their mouths about any shit thing, right? And not kick back at it. Anyway, sorry. I'm hitting the button. See you later.